We all go a little mad sometimes.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
They're here.
Hi, I know this is going to sound a little strange, but I've been kind of expecting you. Lee.
How's your faith these days, Father? Nate.
And you're listening to...
They're here.
Sorry. Podcast.
A discussion
And dissection.
of all things horror.
Fear. And sometimes Bjork.
Or Disturbed.
Or Sinead O'Connor.
Or Natalie Imbruglia.
For some reason. That's my one, like, the fuck about this movie is Natalie Imbruglia is at the end. And she's the closing credits song as well.
Alanis Morissette. Alanis Morissette.
I mean, that makes sense. Half of the soundtrack absolutely makes sense because it's 1999.
Yeah.
So today we're doing Stigmata, my choice of the week. I am obsessed with this movie. Childhood favorite movie. One of my mom's favorite movies.
Well, if I'm going to scale it back a few years, when I first... No, this is back in, when the cameras were doing...
The day of Padre Pio, yeah.
Yeah. Day of Padre Pio was born. I remember seeing this film and not entirely understanding it.
I hate the ending, I'll just say that.
It's a little kind of a cop-out. It had a great, sense of direction right up until that very end Exorcist scene.
It feels like two different movies.
Yeah, it feels like it just... took a sharp left turn at some point during the film where I'm guessing the producers were like, people are not going to fucking know. Can you just, give us an exorcism scene?
Well, it's annoying because, the colour palette changes and, the entire setting changes. And,
special effects are
I will say
the
flames at the end look really good for 1999. I don't expect much from special effects in this kind of era.
Yeah.
Especially for some reason, usually flames look really bad. But it just takes a sharp detour. But I would say I am obsessed with about 98% of this movie. Just because it has a lot of nostalgia for me. It reminds me of my mom. And I just have a lot of cool memories with this. Or first, I think I mentioned this on the podcast. My mom is not really a horror movie person. So when she likes something horror, I'm always like, ooh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
obviously, Stigmata, directed by Rupert Wainwright.
Stigmata!
And screenplay by Tom Lazarus. Cool name, by the way.
Name. Yeah, stage name.
And his original story by him as well. And starring Patricia Arquette, Gabriel Byrne, Jonathan Pryce, Nia Long, and Rade Surbij.
Yeah, every time.
And if I may say, the cinematography, Jeffrey L. Kimball. Just fucking beautiful, sense of I don't know how to say it,
there's a thing with
of
this
everything.
Where they left a lot of I forget exactly what the process was, but they either took away part of the negatives or left nearly all the negatives in, so that the movie almost has a silver look to it.
Yeah.
At least the first portion, while they're in, it's Philadelphia, I believe. Well, while they're in the city and stuff like that, everything has kind of a weird silver haze to it. Everything is kind of, it gives you almost an astigmatism almost. Everything is slightly kind of glowy and slightly kind of, there's a very metallic look to the first portion of this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that is because it's 1999 or because they also wanted everything to feel sort of dreamlike. For Frankie, everything is kind of hazy and a little bit she's losing her mind, so it kind of goes with.
Well, it would also be the influence of him having worked with Tony Scott, and if you don't know Tony Scott, obviously he's the brother of Ridley Scott, who worked on him with Beverly Hills Cop and Revenge, but he was also the cinematographer of Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
1991,
We really need to do that
something
movie.
like that.
That movie creeps me out.
Definitely. Which was, if you don't know, that's the inspiration for Silent Hill themes and all of this kind of thing. So it's done really, really well. So he was the one who popularized that kind of jittery jumps cuts and speed ups and things like that. So, and it works. In this film, you can very much see that kind of being cultivated and used more, because he did Jacob's Ladder prior to this film. So
this is almost kind of the little sister movie to Jacob's Ladder.
Plus, this is also one of these films that have this is obviously like it's religious horror, but right up until this point, I think from what, like 1993, 94 onwards, it was like the teen slasher craze per se.
It's literally 96 with Scream. Like,
so
keep that off.
You have all of that. So like it's a massive upshift in that type of horror. So having something like completely out of left field for something like this is rather refreshing. I kind of want to say for the last like 5 years of the decade,
like that as well.
Yeah,
and like the Ninth Gate and things like that kind of came around, where a lot of like people are like kind of starting to outrightly criticize the church.
Yeah.
Now, when we say the church, we obviously mean the Catholic Church. That's
Yeah.
what most people mean when they say the church. Just because, like, they're looking at the Vatican are like the bad guy in this movie, where they're like they're covering a lot of shit up.
You want to think of them as like the sort of religious version of like the FBI, CIA kind of thing, where they're trying to like keep everything on the down low.
It's like the light of the what is it? The Order of Light or something from Van Helsing.
Yeah, and the Priory of Sion from Da Vinci Code and shit like that.
It's very that.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm like, I wonder how the Catholic Church felt about this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because they film a lot of it in Rome, too. Well, they have a lot of scenes in Rome. And it's all supposed to be in the Vatican or whatever.
So we have the music by Billy Corgan and Mike Garson. And Emilia Smirl? Schmear. I'm gonna
it's a
butcher
cream
those
cheese and
names.
hazelnut schmear. Yeah.
So of Smashing Pumpkins, as you were saying,
Yeah.
we have, who do we have? We have Bjork, Natalie Imbruglia, Sinead O'Connor, rest in peace, Alanis Morissette, Disturbed, and who's the one that does the song at the beginning?
Yeah, they are.
You don't know?
No, but it's a remix of the original song, though. The Whatever Happened to Mary.
Yeah,
Mary.
I love it. I love the sort of punk rock aesthetic of the late 90s that kind of influences this era, because I remember looking at people like this, especially like Patricia Arquette's character, looking like she had arrived from another planet.
Yeah.
Of like different kind of fashion, social events and things like that, where she was just like, oh, I've got this, you know, these massive honky tonky shoes with, you know, thigh high socks. Who?
Chumbawamba.
I've no idea who that is.
I got knocked down, but I get up again.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So weird.
But yeah, I always just like this sort of era on film, because it's its own little kind of what's a thing where they bury
Like
it?
a time capsule.
A time capsule. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
very nostalgic.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic.
This is the 90s that I remember and being alive for. This is like this small little bit. I think it's right. Obviously, it's right before Y2K, when fashion was still weird enough for me to enjoy.
Little
But
experimental.
then with Y2K, once like 2000s came in, there's like a very brief moment in time where I enjoy the fashion, and then it all goes downhill for me until it comes back around. But just like, I even said to you last week, I was like, do I want to wear foam platforms with socks? Yes, I do. But this whole movie...
Do you want to wear the palm tree leaf?
The little
like,
thing is all stuck out and stuff. I don't know. There's certain parts of this movie that make me feel real uncomfortable, because there's a lot of people walking around with really wet coats on and really wet fur on, which always makes me want to throw up.
Yeah, it's just... It's
now,
nasty.
poor Nia Long, her hair is consistently laid in this movie, and then she has to run outside and rescue her friend.
Yeah.
You know, she looks a mess. But now, Nia Long, this is my actual intro to Nia Long, and this is my first reference for her.
What else has she been in?
Most people will know her for, like, Fresh Prince.
Oh, yeah.
Nia Long, for me, you can ask Yemi, she has always been at the top of our list for, like, one of the most beautiful women ever.
Hey, Yemi,
She's just
shout out.
that face. She's got the face where she could have, like, really, really tight hair and just give everything. Gorgeous goldfish. It is. It's fucking... she's just stunning. I even said to you last week, I was like, do I want a friend with metallic purple hair and grey lipstick? I sure do. But I don't know, I also kind of... Again, I'll just... One of the last times I'll mention my mom. Because they work in, like, a salon, I think that might have been half of the reason why my mom really liked this. Because my mom was also, like, doing that then in that time, you know. It's like she goes to the salon, and it's like a piercing studio as well, and Portia de Rossi is there.
Yes.
Famous dyke Portia de Rossi, married to Ellen DeGeneres. It's just like she's got like the braided hair and the like lip ring and like the cool makeup and shit like that, you know.
Yeah.
I love that whole dynamic. Where they go into the shop, you know. And like, to be fair, all of her friends are genuinely supportive. Like, even when they're kind of whispering, it's not like bitchy gossip to be like...
I always thought it was like, that's obscenely rude at how loud you're talking.
It's like, because she just basically gets diagnosed with epilepsy, and they're like, is she okay? Like,
yeah.
Because it's not like they're chatting shit. She can just hear them, you know? But this movie starts in, what is it, Cartagena or somewhere like that?
It starts south of the border somewhere.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to...
The screen is yellow.
Some orange flecks are there. But the whole opening, with Rufus Wainwright, the way he gets these films, especially with this one, he's only had up until this point a music video career. So the camera angle choices, the flashes, the jump cuts, all of that entirely make sense.
Yeah.
In this context for this film. And it works.
And for some reason, people use this whole movie looks like a music video as an insult. I don't know why. I think some of my favourite movies are shot that way.
Yeah, some
like
real
House
good
of the Thousand
stylized.
Corpses just feels like an hour and a half long Rob Zombie music video.
Yeah.
But why does that sound like a bad thing? That doesn't sound like a bad thing at all.
He did the music video for Can't Touch This.
Yeah, I can see that.
Can't touch this.
But the whole movie is just very stylized and not stylized in the way that there's like animation in the middle of it or some shit like that. But I mean, like, it's all very, it's just really stylish. Like it all looks like an ad campaign or something like that, you know. No, I will say this whole movie is very wet, and she's sleeping in that bed, and the bedside tables are wet. There's a drip,
water dripping directly down into the bed.
It's just, I know that, like, that
there's
damp
this
sheets.
smell.
Yeah.
Do
you smell that? It smells like jasmine or hyacinth or something.
Oh, I have some really cool shit about that.
Gross.
So
I hate the smell of jasmine.
So I did some digging into it because she says it on more than one occasion that it smells like flowers or things like that.
There's flowers in the... Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'll wait.
Well, jasmine's meaning varies by place and culture, but is often symbolized as love, beauty, or sensuality. So jasmine, when it's referenced, it comes from her friend, I can't remember her name.
Leah
Long. Her.
Donna.
She says jasmine.
Or hyacinth or something.
It's pure white blossoms that can also symbolize purity because the small, unassuming white flowers bloom at night with such a powerful scent. Jasmine sometimes symbolizes the value of modesty. That changes when she mentions hyacinths afterwards, which symbolize jealousy, a desire for forgiveness, and sincerity, depending on the flower's color. Yellow hyacinths are linked to jealousy, purple to seeking forgiveness, and blue to are tied to sincere care.
You don't say.
Yeah. And then obviously roses are referenced a huge amount in the film, and it's a symbolism of the Blessed Virgin, which obviously is entirely her
I do
point.
like that color coding though for flowers and stuff, especially roses. Like orange or yellow roses are for friendship, and then like red is for love or passion or whatever. Like I always love that. Like if your friend is going through a bad time, you get them yellow roses. Yeah. Which is also in Funny Girl. Sorry, this is just a really small note. Fucking Nick Arnstein gets Fanny Bryce yellow roses, and she's like in love with him, but then he ultimately breaks up with her in the end. But just going by that. Yeah. He never was really like in love with her like that. Because he got her yellow roses. You know? Just like small, like I do love touches like that in movies because it's like 99.9% of the audience will never get that. Yeah. It's just something that you find out like through like smaller bits of research, which I really enjoy. Now the opening to this movie, which is
a Brazilian village by the name of Belo Quinto.
Frankie's mother is doing what we do, just buy little like religious pieces just going around. Yeah. She has some little like run around, bring her like a rosary that he just took off a dead body. Yeah. But that shot of even when we see the priest lying there and then all the blood like comes down on the screen It's crazy looking.
Yeah.
You know? But Byrne is there, or Gabriel Byrne.
Byrne!
Same fucking thing. Gabriel Byrne, Father Andrew Kiernan, he's there to investigate a crying statue of Mary. It's crying blood. But they also kind of just skirt around this, that it is genuine. It's genuine blood. It's warm blood coming from a cold statue. And it's free floating. There's no.
He even has the electricity sensor as well,
because he's a scientist and a priest.
Yeah,
can you be both?
He was a Jesuit priest who was a former scientist. He investigates supposed miracles because the Virgin Mary's weeping blood at the funeral of Father Paulo Alameda.
Yeah, one of 3 translators, we'll find out later, of this original gospel in the word of, or Jesus in his own words.
Yes,
they were only given one every 3 pages each, so that they couldn't connect them all together, which is pretty cool.
Which is interesting. It sort of lends the belief to the fact that established hierarchies and governments and people in positions of power. Exactly, it's very conspiratorial. There's a lack of faith and trust.
And you understand why.
True, because like this type of foundations, you also look at it as like this is... So when someone references the gospel according to the historical Jesus of Nazareth, the way it's described is every other gospel, right, was written by someone who never met Jesus.
It's like a second-hand account.
It's a second or third-hand account of what someone had said they had saw.
What is it? It's like Jesus told many stories and many people heard them, so it's all interpreted very different ways.
Exactly.
Especially if you're going generation through generation. Like the original Bible, it's written long after Jesus is already dead.
Yeah, like the Bible itself, in case anyone is like, it's not written by Jesus of Nazareth or anything like that. The Bible itself is presided over by Emperor Constantine at his deathbed and the Council of Nicaea, and this was hundreds of years later after Jesus's crucifixion, and they presided over which gospels to keep, which ones to throw away, which ones to anything that differed from the claim of Jesus's divinity.
And even like the King James Bible is completely translated from a translation.
Absolutely, I'd put my hand on the Rick James Bible rather than. But there's to do with the historic the Rick James come on, baby. But it's very much based off of the fact that when it comes to the historical living Jesus of Nazareth,
strong air quotes
but it's a first-hand account. It's written in Jesus's own words, so it's not a second or third hand. It's a primary account,
like it's a diary entry almost.
And it is the church to this day, because this document is real. That's why this film was made.
They point that out at the end. It's like, that's so cool, which does show that like the church is fucking
the weird. Church deems it as heresy because there are certain themes in it that basically are just like, hey yo, don't trust the church. You can find me and God anywhere.
It's basically like churches are bullshit.
Yeah, you don't need them.
They would not have had churches in the same way then.
And it's a theme that keeps coming up. It was the same with the Gospel according to Mary Magdalene, which was it took away Jesus' divinity and spoke about the man himself. And then you have the Gospel of Judas Iscariot, which is basically there's actually a really cool comic based in around it, but that's a first-hand account of Jesus' life as well. And the Gospel according to Judas Iscariot is the one where he questions his own morality and his own freedom of will, because he says, hey yo, was I destined? He questions Jesus
like,
in the gospel,
or is it like the illusion
exactly?
Of free
he
will?
was like, yo, was I always meant to do this, and if so, why did you fuck me over and let it happen?
Exactly,
you know what I mean? So like all these gospels would have been thrown into question and then eventually just deemed as heresy, because the church itself still deems because the scrolls that they had found were found in amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls, so that's everything after that just kind of comes into question, and before that as well.
And like, if these things, I do actually remember, because this little quote comes up before the credits, or like just as the movie ends, right before credits. Or I was reading it, and then I was like, they're deemed as heresy. I was like, that's crazy. Yeah. But also, like, okay, no, the idea of them being heresy is insane. But then also, I do understand why the church, I'm not agreeing with, but I do understand the church, because we refer to it as the church,
Holy See,
not,
the church,
not the Catholics or any of that. We always refer to it as the church. The idea that churches themselves are not important, and that Christ can be anywhere.
It takes the power from them.
It is, but then you realize that the idea that, like, most of the money and the reason why people think that churches are greedy, or the reason that Catholics and shit like that are greedy, is because these churches are, like, the most opulent buildings. They literally are. Yeah. The most opulent
Which you'll
buildings.
See in October.
I can't wait. Just the most opulent buildings with gold, and especially the Vatican, that is just filled with, like, artifacts and literal treasure. You know, like, you could sell everything in the Vatican and end world hunger in a day.
Yeah.
In a second. And you'd still have half the Vatican left.
If you're wondering about what we're talking about, go listen to our conspiracy theories episode. I talk at length about the Vatican Bank and Vatican Archives, so go listen to that if you want some really cool, interesting shit. Just in case. Cool plug, but I'm just saying.
But this I find really interesting because, again, there seems to be two movies happening at the same time until...
it takes Father that Kiernan, sharp left turn at the end.
Before Father Kiernan and Frankie meet up.
Yeah.
And also, I would be very interested in seeing these two movies separate, even if they weren't one.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I always like the idea of seeing, like, kind of the shady side, or, like, the kind of conspiratorial side of the Vatican. Because, again, this shit really does happen. They really do cover shit up.
Oh, they do.
It would
all
change
the time.
people's views.
Yeah.
But he goes there and deems the crying virgin to be genuine.
Yeah.
This is a cold statue, but it's warm blood. But then they kind of
and it's human blood. It was tested.
And they never go back to that.
Yeah.
What's his fucking name? Mr. Cardinal Daniels is kind of just like, whatever. Just forget about it.
Played by...
Jonathan Pryce.
Fucking love him.
Grand Maester in Game of Thrones.
And he plays Prince Philip in The Crown. The older version. The latest. I think it's the latest season, I think.
Oh, with... what's her name? I Shall Not Tell Lies.
Yeah.
As the Queen.
I can't remember her name.
You're one.
Watch The Crown. It's a good series. Very well written.
Roddy, shows your cock.
So shortly after Frankie receives the literal possessed rosary beads, shall we say, of Father Alameda.
Well, it's because they're snatched. I think there is a weird idea of taking things from the dead. It's kind of desecration, consecration, kind of. It's not... It's like a big no-no.
Yeah.
Like, you don't steal
especially
from the dead.
Especially if you're stealing from a priest.
But he did that in front of everybody.
Yeah, and everyone's just like... when Father Kiernan shows up, I think the whole, like, opening is a metaphor for how, like, people can be so easily swayed under, like, religious fanaticism.
Yeah.
And all of this, I think. It was like the fact that Kiernan is over there just, like... taking a swab to a bit of blood, and the kid is literally just over at the body robbing the corpse in front of everyone, and everyone's focused on him. Like, what?
I do think this is gorgeous though, because we get a lot of imagery with, like, doves, stuff like that. Again, they're playing with a lot of very typically Christian and Catholic imagery.
Symbolism plays a really, really big part in this film,
and I love it. That's what I always say, is like, I'm not a Catholic, I just
love the imagery.
Like, I just play one on TV.
You're one of those heavenly bodies. You just prefer to be a skeleton with gorgeous amounts of gemstones and shit.
All over me. That's the thing. I'm obsessed with Catholic imagery and everything to do with it. And I will also say, this is one of my favorite movie covers of all time.
Oh,
because
yeah.
It's just, I used to have this poster above my bed because it's just like female Jesus.
Yeah.
And with the ribs are like completely pushed in, or like are completely protruded, and the stomach is completely pushed in. And we got a lot of flashes of... we get a lot of flashes of who we think is Jesus being crucified.
Yeah.
And then, like, the crown of thorns and, like, the crying blood and everything. It's gorgeous. I freaking love the imagery in this movie.
Yeah, Frankie is attacked in the bathtub by an unseen force.
I think she's pregnant.
Yeah, she believes she's pregnant. So I find it very interesting that when it comes to her... the penetration of the nails and things like that, or the slashes across the back, it's from a point of view of her but not her in a dreamlike
Because she
state.
doesn't know it's her.
And then
yet.
when
She
it
thinks
comes
it's
to
Jesus.
her, yeah, because it jump cuts back to her and then back to the quote unquote Jesus, and back and forth, and she's already got the wounds as the sort of vision is receiving the wounds.
Well, it's
if
not
that makes
we-
sense.
It's that we don't know that it's her until she gets the crown of thorns across her face, which again is gorgeous. Just all this blood running down her face. And I love this shot. I love all of this scene where first they go to the club, and I have to mention it. This green lucite
I
ball
knew
ring. I don't
this
give a
was coming.
shit. It's gorgeous. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It probably cost like €1.
Yeah.
It looks like she got it out of like a vending machine or something. But I've always wanted something like that. I don't know why that's like one of the only things that's really stuck out to me in this movie. From being a kid or whatever. But she goes to the club. She's meeting her boyfriend, who plays the dickhead dude in Starship Troopers, who gets his brains sucked out at the end by the brain bug. But he's such an asshole, because he's like,
Karma.
he's like, I'm so fucked up. And she's like, are you too fucked up to come home with me? And he's like, no. And then he like leaves while she's gone. And then the next time she sees him, she thinks he's pregnant. Or he thinks...
He's pregnant?
No,
What?
He thinks that she thinks that she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like all over the floor. And he's just like, whatever. And then he's like out of the movie. It's so fucked up. But she goes home and she gets into the bath. Again, this wet ass room. I know damn well the floor is freezing because there's still water on tiles. That's a cold ass room.
Yeah.
And even in the bath, there's all these drips and candles. You know damn well them
That
candles
is
are
an
moist.
excessive fucking
There's
amount of
condensate.
candles.
I mean,
Did
it
you
was the
look at that
90s. She
room?
was borderline whimsy goth. There's like, and you know damn well those candles have a hell of condensation all over them.
Yeah.
Also, how is this 23-year-old hairdresser affording this
fucking
giant apartment?
Yeah, it's massive.
Her bed
Yeah.
with that
King
huge
size.
headstone, that huge like headboard on the back of it.
Yeah.
Fuck me up. But she's in the bath, and just this shot of her like going in. We don't get the sense that she's trying to kill herself. We just get she's kind of like doing like a borderline like meditation moment. Like, because like I love that when you're like underwater and you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
But that shot when she's like down like that, and then it's like a perfect reflection of herself above her. I know this was a big deal for Patricia Arquette because she did not like filming in the nude. She used to have a fear of being naked.
I loved that long shot that I think it goes from her calves or her
Belly
feet
button.
all the way across to her belly button.
With the
I
thorns around
loved
the
that
belly
shot.
button.
Yeah, it was
Gorgeous.
beautiful. Yeah.
But she used to be very fearful of being nude. She said before that she used to shower in the dark, or she used to bathe in the dark because she used to not like. But then I think she like kind of kept pushing herself to do more and more things like this in movies so she could get over that. It's irrelevant to the movie, but it's just something I remember about Patricia Arquette. Again, one of my favorite actresses. I love the whole Arquette family. But yeah, just these shots. It kind of gave me Requiem for a Dream, which
Oh,
then
of
in
course.
turn kind of gave me.
Requiem was 2001.
I think that they're like right around the same
Yeah.
time. But that in turn gave me Perfect Blue.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, just like this. Now the score kind of goes a little weird. Somebody let their cat walk all over the piano.
Yeah.
Walk all over the synth machine for a
I
minute.
think the way it sort of breaks down is just a little... Yeah.
It's
well, I
crazy.
mean, I suppose it's sort of slightly appropriate because, like, she's being attacked invisibly.
No, it is appropriate. It just seems so like
Ooh.
suddenly the 70s synth score comes into this like really pretty much like music dominated. There's not a lot of score in this movie. It's a lot of soundtrack.
I think the score is only done by one person, which is Zelia Schmirel.
Were you not expecting a like Enigma or something on the track?
I love Enigma. Now Frankie's sense of self-assurance is breathtaking when she's in the hospital, right?
Now, this nurse played by Joan Cusack's sister. I thought it was Joan Cusack. It's not.
Wow. But it's breathtaking.
You cut yourself. And she's like, no, I didn't. It's like, you cut yourself.
She snaps back at the doctor about being insignificant, and yet in the same sentence she says she loves being herself. I looked at this and I thought, that is just some breathtaking narcissism right there.
She's 23.
She turns around in one sentence, the self-deprecating artistic side of someone comes out, and at the end of that sentence, the self-aggrandizing megalomaniacal side comes out.
Because they're like, look, because they're kind of low-key questioning her.
It only bleeds when I touch it.
And then stop touching it then.
Stick your finger in
I
it.
literally said that. And then
She's like got her
maybe
finger right through the hole of her wrist.
Now, also, how the fuck do you think I did these myself, though? Like, I'd understand if they were slashes, like later on in the movie, but they're like perfectly symmetrical holes.
Yeah.
Through the bone and through between the bone and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't fucking do this to myself. How could I have? But yeah, I loved that line where she's like, it only bleeds when I touch it. And then as she said it, I was like, why are you touching it then? You know? But I love, she's like, because she's like passed out and they bring her in and then she sits up and just does, Patricia Arquette has a great scream. Mm-hmm. Just that you know, like it's so, you'd really do feel bad for her.
And then her heart stops or something, like straight away afterwards.
Yeah. And you're like, wow, her vitals are just completely
gone.
Yeah, she did die for a couple of seconds. But also, yeah, she's got like punctures through her wrists. You know, the one thing I remember is that scene later where she's got the knife and she just puts it all the way through like that. It's so good.
Blood of Christ.
The dubbing in that scene is a little questionable.
It's a little questionable, but it's still very powerful.
How's
your faith these days, Father?
But her face is on 100 and the voice is on 80.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a little like, oh, Jesus Christ. Literally.
The whipping of her back in the train scene is so like powerful in my opinion, because well, first of all, I mean, she grabs the train assistant.
Have you ever done that on a Lewis?
No, it's nasty. I can't. And you can also hear like lion roars in the background. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's some really strong shit. I love the way she goes, "Can I help you?" And she goes, "No, I'm fucked."
Yeah, and she turns to the nuns, and the nuns have these like giant crosses. Like, they're not crucifixes, they're just like plain metal crosses. Yeah. But they're huge. They're like ridiculously big. And she just grabs it off and throws it away. And then even then, they still feel bad for her because she immediately starts getting whipped. But it's like whipped, like scourged to the point where like, her coat is tore up at the back. Yeah. Like it's not. It's weird because the when I think stigmata, I think of the things just appearing on the body, like the wounds just appearing on the body. But it's as if she's being whipped by an invisible force. Yeah. So it's going through her clothes and everything. But then she's just getting like thrown around. But then the entire train is also getting like jostled around and shit. So it's like, this is
the fuck is
it's
going
like
on?
Giving Final Destination or something. This is because she asks for him by name. She says, "Are you Andrew Kiernan?" Yeah. So then this is kind of our introduction to Gabriel Byrne. This is how he's brought into this case. Yeah. But because this entire time, the church are trying to kill this as a news story. Yeah. Because it's being published places, and they're trying to snub it out. But they can't really stay on top of it. You know? But then just that footage, they see the footage of her literally like held up like this, and she's
just slashes appearing across her. Yeah.
And
it is a good
three religious or three trusted religious witnesses. You know, I love to bring a little beret too. He's a fashion priest. Yeah, I'm a cool priest. It's 1999.
I don't touch little kids.
Let's go. I don't touch little kids. I wear berets.
I'm a different.
The two genders: pedophile or beret wearer.
So like. Afterwards, when like everyone's just like, apart from what's her name again? Donna's the only one that's kind of really out there to support her in a certain sense, because at this point, like, Andrew Kiernan is on the way and stuff, but she goes back to the hairdressers / nipple piercing / all of this.
Yeah, this is where we get Bjork on the track.
I was literally just going to say, this is where Bjork is on the track.
It's the video version of All Is Full of Love, one of my favourite songs.
And this is just before the vision of the Fashion Mary, as I call her. And the vision thing, like, so when the way it's described in the film is actually slightly inaccurate to what like people like Padre Pio and
Padre Pio didn't see Mariska Hargitay wearing a metallic blue coat. Jesus.
No, it's so when they see visions and things like that, they don't, like, Andrew Kiernan is just like, oh, it's just because this is what's explaining away in the film and things like that. But when it comes to people who have experienced stigmata and things like that, they don't have visions of angels or demons or things. They just feel unseen presence in and around them. So, for example, Padre Pio consistently said that he felt like he was being tormented by demons, but not by, the devil. It was his own demons.
Personal demons, yeah.
His personal demons that were... like, nowadays you would look at it, was like, is that a mental disorder?
Yeah.
Is someone looking at it going, like, that's
people
just,
say their own demons,
bipolar disorder or something like that? Exactly.
Ill. They just don't know what to call that. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, like, at the time, like, that was possession by the devil or some shit,
you say my own demons so you don't get locked up in an asylum.
Exactly.
In the 30s or 40s.
So, like, it's one of those things where the film does slightly get this inaccurate, where they quite literally do put, visions in front of Frankie, and this is one of them.
But see, what I'm getting from this is because this is just after she found out that she wasn't pregnant.
Yes.
This is after the whips.
Also, can we just say how quickly the doctor walks away going, I don't know.
Oh, no. Yeah, exactly. I know. You fucking figure it out. Yeah.
I was like, is that not your fucking job?
I do actually like that scene, though, because she's in the hospital and she's like, am I pregnant? Or did you run a pregnancy test? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And then she's like, am I pregnant? He's like, no. And she's like, was I? And he's like, I don't fucking know.
And then he just walks away.
He's saying it like while leaving, or like literally exiting the frame. But I do kind of like that. For some reason, this movie would have been very different because she would have fulfilled the Mary role versus the Jesus role.
Yeah.
So I don't get this so much as a vision from God. I get this as her kind of being like, oh, I was almost pregnant. Because again, this is not a thing that like appears in the Bible, is the idea of Mary losing Jesus as a child or anything like that, or giving Jesus up. Like, as far as we know, like, Mary was like with him till the end, literally until the very end,
right up until the end.
So she's holding this baby, and again we get All It's Full of Love, which is like a very, very 1999 song. Great fucking music video though. It's the two robots making love. Which always reminded me of like a Toyota ad or something like that. I'm pretty sure there's like a Hyundai ad or like a Toyota ad that's like very inspired by that. But she sees metallic fashion Mary holding Jesus. This actually reminded me a lot of the Omen remake. Some of those visions and stuff.
Yeah, the whole
the
holding
red
the
cloak
baby
and stuff. Yeah, like the red cloak and what. Remember in that movie that like weird jackal mask that she sees in the bathroom? Mm-hmm. I actually must rewatch that again. I haven't seen that in years.
Gotta do that. Yeah.
And she just drops this baby, and then it's so frustrating because like if you're watching this for the first time, you're thinking this might be that kind of movie that goes in the way of like, oh, nobody's gonna believe her. Mm-hmm. But then people are like, okay, why are you saying this? Like, people aren't just like, you're crazy. People are
they're
like,
quick to
let's
help
get help.
her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they just send her home, and then she goes to the hospital. Nobody's like, what a freak. Like, even through this, her friends, because her friends see stuff happening to her. Mm-hmm. Like, the next piece of stigmata she gets is the forehead. The forehead, yeah. And this happens in the club in front of all of her friends, so people know she's not crazy.
Yeah.
And like these things are just appearing. It's like her whole face is full of blood, and this is where we get her quote unquote boyfriend being like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's it's sort of like, it's borderline questioning whether she is losing her shit or not, but like, again, sort of following this theme of the film, or like the plot of her seeing more visions, her becoming more subjective, her being more subjectified or whatever.
And this is after she's met Andrew Kiernan.
Yeah,
so she's starting to get the help.
To the visions then being more possessed by
like she's more open
Father
to
Almeida, and then everything else happening as a result of continuous visions and so on and so forth. And
now I read this movie very differently as a child. If I hadn't watched it since then, if you had asked me what this movie was about when I was a kid, I took it as she was possessed by Jesus, not by the devil.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like a really cool flip on it. Just because, like, why wouldn't I think that as a kid? Because, like, it's a female Jesus in the front, and like just that scene where she's doing the quote unquote Aramaic on the wall, which is not actually Aramaic, it's just ancient Hebrew, because the director thought that ancient Hebrew looked cooler than Aramaic, but that would really piss me off if I was like a linguist or whatever like that, or like a historian. That's really annoying. But like that scene always really freaked me out, where he gets to her apartment, and this is after she's gotten through the feet, and she's like scrawling it on the walls in the big marker or whatever like that, and she turns around and the eyes are like,
Il messaggero non è importante.
That's like that line from The Exorcist.
Yeah.
But she's all like swollen, and
her eyes are just,
because they're not completely rolled back, they're just they're kind
of,
of
because
Almeida
was blind.
Exactly, so they're looking askew.
Yeah.
And she's acting like an old man. So she, in that moment, is...
She does that whole kind of...
The shuffle. I'm like... I wonder how quickly did Father Almeida, like, get used to walking in platforms.
You know, he was walking to the club Saturday evenings.
Yeah, exactly. Checking the metallic lipstick or whatever.
Oh my god.
But, getting the body glitter on. But, so once she
down to the Brazilian gay bar,
pulling those beads out.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that with rosaries. They're much too small.
Oh my god.
Believe me.
It didn't stop Melissa B. Fierce just saying.
But so this is it. She leaves the club, and again, it's gorgeous, because this is the one we get the most kind of focused on, and we get to look at the most. Because again, I think it's the most visually striking of the Stigmata is the crown of thorns and the blood down the face.
And it's raining again.
And it's raining, but it's constantly raining. But this movie makes me want to take a shower and get dry, because this whole movie is just sweaty and steamy, and they go for coffee, and they're like in these little bodegas, but they're soaking wet, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I know that feeling of being in somewhere and you're still wearing wet clothes, but you're sweating, and all the windows are fogged up, and your glass is cold, but you're warm but wet. It's nasty, and everybody's smoking indoors, and your cigarette is wet, because of course it is, and because you're wearing a fabric bag, and your paper box of cigarettes has gotten completely soaked, but whatever. But she leaves the club, and she's like running through traffic, but we get kind of flashes of her, like, I don't want to say like writhing, she's kind of just like feeling her face and like kind of trying to shroud herself, but it's all running down her face, and it looks like...
the hands are pushing the crown of thorns into her forehead, into her head.
Exactly, and it looks like religious imagery.
Yeah.
You know, we're starting to get like her looking up into light with the crown of thorns, and then she runs off into the alley, and this is where we first get her being possessed.
Love those like contacts. Whatever contacts she was wearing were
they're
fantastic.
Like goat, you know, they're kind of goat devilish.
Yeah.
You know, they don't come back, which I kind of like, because I was like, don't. No, I like it for one scene, but it's like don't
keep doing it.
Yeah, I like all the different looks that she has, but she's like scrawling quote unquote Aramaic across this car, you know, because at first she walks home just covered in blood, and Father Kiernan is there, and then she decides to run away again, because he basically told her that like there's no way it could be Stigmata, because you're a self-confessed atheist. Like that's never happened before. People don't get Stigmata. It's only really devoutly religious people that get it. And she's like hiding her wounds from him because she doesn't want him to like see. But then when she goes back and is being taken care of in the church right after this is where we find out she's like, you're wrong, because like my injuries are through my wrist, not through my hand. This is where we find out that Jesus was crucified through the wrist, or that people would have been crucified through the wrist, because
historically it's true.
Exactly. If you get crucified through the hand, it's just going to slip right out.
Yeah,
because there's just
no
meat
way
there.
It can support the body.
There's a bone there, you know. And even in, I believe it's Passion of the Christ, where he's crucified but also tied up with rope, because the body cannot support itself if you're just hanging by tiny little, well, I say tiny little nails. They're like 1.5 inches or like wide around.
Yeah.
And then through the feet. Now, what I never understood is because some crucifixes have Jesus's feet one on top of the other, crucified through one foot through the other, and then some are on a piece like that, crucified down through both feet. I was kind of like, what way are they going to go? Because I would count that as two separate injuries, versus it being one on top of the other versus two nails. Does that make sense?
No, because you're still penetrating both feet.
No, but I mean, like, I would count them as two separate injuries because this is one injury.
Yeah.
These are two separate injuries. So I was wondering, like, how many are they going to do?
No, that doesn't make sense because both feet are still getting penetrated.
I know, but
just by one nail.
I know, but I'm thinking of it that way. Like, one nail
means only one injury.
But I was wondering how
that doesn't make sense.
Listen, I was wondering like how many flashes of Stigmata we were going to get. Is what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, was it going to be foot, then another foot, or was it just going to be both at the same time? Because again, I haven't watched this movie in probably like 10 years. But then she's kind of going on where this is where we start to find out that like the church is lying to you.
Yeah.
Because she's like, so every painting, every crucifix, every depiction of Jesus is wrong. And he's like, well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the church covering up things, the other thing that I love when Gabriel gets told there's no church in Bella Quinto, and if there is, it's not one of ours. It's hilarious the accent the priest has.
No, it's not that.
No, the church of Bella Quinto is not the one of ours.
His name is like Dario or something like that.
It's just
Father Dario.
Ridiculous.
I've never seen a church in Bella Quinto.
Yeah, like everything he talks with the hand is out like this. The Bella Quinto church is not the one of ours.
Oh my God, and when he walks past the prostitutes.
Oh yeah.
I love it. Sex workers, sorry. When he walks past them though, and they're fully just like,
yeah.
And then he shows them the collar and they're like, "Ooh, I'll give you the Vatican discount."
I love it.
It's so cute.
But it's that actual nail scene with through the feet, I think is much more iconic, because she falls right back into a huge amount of flowers.
Yeah.
And again, like, it's that theme where this flower means this and this flower means that. But I love the fact that you can just literally hear the bang of the hammer on the metal, and all you get is her screaming.
For me.
Yeah, because there's nothing but tendon. If you were to get it through there, right?
There's very these bones
easily.
As well.
Oh yeah, when it comes to the body, this one would be very easily to penetrate.
Yeah.
The tendon that you can feel is very easily missable. There's 5 tendons in your foot. And
all the bones are more tightly packed in your feet. I don't know, it's just any kind of foot injury is so much worse to me. Obviously besides like the spear in the rib, but that's like the killing blow.
Yeah.
That's
sure, like
to make sure you're dead.
To be clear, when it comes to Stigmata, Jesus received 5 wounds. When it comes to the 5 wounds, Stigmata does not talk about the one around the head with the crown of thorns. Yeah. They're also not talking about the whipping. They're just talking about the 5 wounds that he received.
Yeah.
So the 2 hands, the feet, and the stab wound.
Yeah. And nobody's ever gotten the full 5.
Nobody. Padre Pio did receive. Padre Pio did receive the ones on his hands as well as on his feet, but he didn't receive anything else. Then there was Francis of Assisi.
That's why she's named Frankie.
Didn't see that.
Yeah.
But St. Francis of Assisi did receive the wound on his side from this quote-unquote spear of destiny.
Yeah. No, Padre Pio kept those open with acids and stuff.
He did, yeah.
So that was found out to be a fraud.
A fraud, yeah. But people are just refusing to believe it now.
Even if he did have them, he kept them unhealed.
Yeah.
Like with acids and with chemicals and stuff. Isn't it crazy how many people how many Irish cars have you been in with a little coin of Padre Pio? Or like a little statuette of Padre Pio or whatever. It's crazy. But yeah, it is weird. Like, this is like a real life quote unquote phenomena that people have gotten, but it's like you don't get anything from it. I think it's just to show your piety and to show how devout you are.
Yeah, because they said the closer you are to God, the more open you are to your demons and spiritual attacks. That's what Gabriel Byrne's character says. Which, what do you mean by spiritual attacks? But like, the whole point of it is exactly. They're just jumping out of
Jesus,
the corner.
You fat bitch. Yeah.
So like, it's one of those where you're looking.
I thought you were fucking pregnant, maybe.
I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Figure it out.
Yeah. But this is at the point of the film, like, after these attacks, where it really does sort of turn into a possession. Now, don't get me wrong, the possession scene where Frankie is painted over all the Aramaic, the quote-unquote Aramaic on her wall, It's an exciting scene.
It's cool.
But, like, I also look at it like, I much preferred what was going on before.
It's one of the most outrightly horror scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
It's creepy, because I remember vividly all my family watching this. And this is when I was, like, allowed to watch as a kid, because there's no, like, tits or, like, nudity or anything in it. It's not, like, overtly gory or scary, really. But this scene really freaked me out, because she's, like, bloated and blind, and she's got all the scars across her face. I do really like how they keep the injuries consistent, again, which is supposed to be consistent with real life stigmata, is that, like, the injuries don't heal.
No, they stay open.
Fresh,
yeah.
but they don't, like, you're not going to keep bleeding out, but you have these injuries consistently. And again, falsities with Padre Pio to the hands, to the wrist.
Love it.
But yeah, the scene just really creeped me out. And then she got into bed with her foam shoes on. But she's lying in bed, and we get repeated imagery of drop, 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 reverse drop. So that's when we know Jesus is a foot.
Jesus is a foot.
Jesus is a foot. And God is a woman.
You said that.
God is a woman. Jesus is a foot. But yeah, we get this repeated imagery of, like, drips, and then one reverse drip, which kind of shows us that, like, God is about, God is around, magic is alive, God is a foot. But then she gets into bed, and she's just getting, like, waterboarded. She's just getting, like, this drip. Like, what is it? The Chinese water torture?
Yeah, waterboarding.
Waterboarding is where they put fabric over your face and then pour water, so you can't, it feels like you're drowning. But it's that torture, I believe it's a Chinese method, where they just drop one drop
drip
of, like, onto your thing. But that's happening in her bed, and it's been happening. Gross. Her bed is soaking wet. That mattress is filled with melt. There's no way that bed isn't fucking melty as fuck.
But it turns so intense. I love the fact that it suddenly goes back and forth between her being rejuvenated, herself, and this sort of Father Almeida.
Well, we get straight up an Exorcist moment where she, like, floats.
Oh yeah, like the bed just flies out from underneath her, and she's like fucking. You know, she's killing it on stage. It's cool. I'd be throwing my money at that.
Yeah. It is cool, though. I do really like pretty much all the imagery in this. And then, so this is where we start to get kind of, this is where they find him in bed with her.
Yeah, so, like...
The Vatican just arrives. The Vatican is on scene.
Yeah, because before this...
Hi, it's the Vatican. Could you buzz us in?
Before this, Dario comes to them with the evidence that Andrew Kiernan has been giving to his colleague in the Vatican about the photographs that he took of the wall. And obviously the Holy See gets wind of this. And they're like, oh, we gotta shut this shit down now.
So they gave, like, a third of the page to the Bolsheviks or whatever, and then
the Bolsheviks?
Same thing. They gave, like, 3 to, like, the Catholics, and then 3 to
Dominicans, the Catholics,
and then the Sicilians.
The Cistercians.
I swear to God, it's the Sicilians.
It's not the Sicilians, you fucking idiot. It's the Franciscans.
Same fucking thing. But over there, our Italian brethren.
Yeah, so after Andrew meets with Petrocelli, who was with Father Almeida,
he's so hot.
The guy in the Vatican, and the
other one's dead.
Yeah, Almeida. So Almeida's the dead guy who was working with Petrocelli, the guy with the beard and the kind of side hair.
Almeida Petrocelli Carbonara, por favore.
and the researcher in the Vatican. Yeah. And basically he says to them that the words that Frankie has been writing are part of a document found outside Jerusalem at the Dead Seas, were believed to be the gospel in the exact words of the quote-unquote historical living Jesus. And this is what forces the church's hand, basically. Yeah. And then they walk in on him. Oh, so cute. They're
both
together.
Fully clothed, though.
Like, oh, girl, please.
No, they didn't have sex, though.
They didn't.
They're literally together. Well, I will say the bed is...
What? Don't you want to fuck me anymore? Blood of Christ!
I will say... The bed
How's your faith these days, Father?
Oh, it is. I do... That scene is kind of weird to me, just because the dubbing is really weird and off. Like, again...
It is really intense,
I wonder
though.
what they did. Did they do... What I was gonna
He's
say.
just fucking... Or she's just fucking him around
I was
in
going
that
to say,
room.
did they do ATR first? But obviously they didn't. But I mean, like, I feel like they should have...
No, because in the trailer, you can hear her
I would've preferred
saying
that.
the actual
I would've preferred that.
quote, and then they dubbed the Father Almeida...
Pazuzu, you mean?
yeah,
It's
Pazuzu
very
afterwards. Yeah.
Your canting daughter. It's literally that exact... It's Burke's voice, basically, from The
Yeah.
Exorcist. I would have preferred it just be her voice. Because, again, they give her some kind of contacts where she looks a little odd, but she's just slashing at her wrists, and then she puts it all the way through the nerve, all the way through the wrist.
I remember looking at that because she, like, I think she gets it halfway and then the priest leaves her body. And then she's like, and she has to pull it out
And
herself.
that's when she goes and lies in the bed and it floats.
It's just so... Oh, yeah, and then all the blood starts dripping off of her and shit.
And there's another person in the room.
It's just so intense. Who?
When he's taking photographs, it's Father Almeida in the mirror.
In the mirror, yeah. And because that's when they realize, oh shit, Almeida is inhabiting Frankie
they have to get rid of her at
do
this
it.
point because they're like, okay, it's genuine. She could basically collapse the church at this point.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't think that this would... we'll see, it's weird because then it would kind of disband the idea of needing churches because we get this repeated quote, what is it? Split a piece of wood and you'll find me. Lift a stone and I'm there.
Yeah.
So that's basically saying like, we get that kind of quote expanded by basically saying like, you're not going to find me in buildings of wood or stone.
Yeah.
So like...
In effigies of wood or stone.
Basically, this just means it's not going to topple the idea of modern Catholicism or Christianity.
But it takes the power and gives it back to the people.
Exactly. It just means churches aren't important. But also, I feel like if that did go ahead, people would still go to churches because like half of the idea of religion is community.
Yeah.
It's not... Like
well, that's why the
pray for
churches
themselves
started.
at home anyway.
The quote unquote Christians, because obviously back then Christians congregated together for comfort because at the time the Roman Catholic Church, just the Romans, the pagans were the ruling class. They had the power.
That's how it should be.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And the penalties were like thrown to the lions, crucified upside down, or set on fire, and things like that. And a lion's gotta eat, bro. So like that was the thing, and the whole point of them communing together was the fact that they didn't feel alone or safety in numbers and all of that kind of thing. So it made sense, but at the time, that they did it out of necessity, not because they wanted to.
Yeah, not because it was like, but necessity for safety, not necessity as in it wouldn't work unless we were all together.
Exactly. You know?
So I do,
which is the modern teaching of the Catholic Church.
It's
like it's only if you go to this place do you have the mobile connection to God,
which is insane. Like like I always like when I was younger, I always felt like, okay, God lives there.
Exactly.
Like God doesn't travel.
That's God's house right there.
Exactly. God lives in Leixlip. God doesn't travel outside that, which is ridiculous because again, it's like religion should be. I feel like that's why a lot of people turn against organized religion is because it's like, oh, it's only going to work under this condition, and it's like, well, no. Like, religion should be personal, and it's great when it can be shared, but that shouldn't be necessary for it to be valid or for it to, quote-unquote, work.
Yeah.
You know? So, I don't know. I don't think that this would, like, destroy the Catholic Church, but I do understand why
it would damage its reputation, that's for sure.
Exactly, and I do understand, but also...
Not that they have a lot of reputation.
Well, it was the 90s.
In the modern day as well.
I was going to say, only a couple of years later...
True.
This is
Sinead had it right. I'm just
saying. This is only 8 years after Sinead, and people
Sinead
still hated her for that. You know, again, which is why I thought it was like very fitting for her to be in this movie or like on the track. But also something like this again, if it gets out, only would confirm to people that God is real, and would confirm Catholicism and confirm that Catholicism is the one true religion. If you believe that way, you know, which is weird because it's like, yeah, it would damage your reputation in terms of churches, but again, like it would also prove to a lot of people that things are real.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's very easy to be influenced by religious spectacle, like we got at the start of the movie, but that was also just a priest walking into a building where some kind of creepy shit happened. This is like literally a woman getting the markings of Jesus. But then, yeah, this movie takes a swift roll down. I stop it. I started checking my phone.
Yeah, so this is where it kind of just turns into, I'm guessing, somewhere along the lines, the producing companies and things like that were just like, hey, yo, it's a little too far-fetched now, wrap this shit up, give us a fucking exorcism and move on, you know, day done.
Yeah.
So I look at this part of the film as a little bit... Oh, I heard that. Fuck yeah. Go on.
Oh.
Do it. Ooh.
Oh, no, that was my knee, though.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, but
I know. So I look at this as it's just a total turn out of left field, and it sort of becomes kind of just... It's a snooze fest.
Give us the old Exorcist 2. Come on, wrap it up.
Exactly. Wrap this shit up. Let's go. And the company was like... It does. I do like, don't get me wrong, I actually do like the imagery towards the end of the film, but like the problem is it's just not strong enough as a finish for me. How quickly it wrapped up with, you know...
And she's fine.
Yeah.
I think there is an alternate ending where she does die, which to me...
I remember there was an ending where she dies.
I'm pretty sure that she does die in the alternate ending, or at least in like the cinematic cut or something. Because I remember kind of being like, oh, she's gonna die.
I think she was like some of the question was whether to canonize her or something like that.
Exactly, because then at the end, he carries her out and she's just like getting up and walking around.
Like St. Francis of Assisi.
But I very much so remember there being an alternate ending, or an ending where she does die from her injuries, or she succumbs to her injuries. Now the deacon, the archdiocese, whoever, the head of the Vatican, Mr. Vatican Man,
the Holy See,
Bob Vatican, he is like just strangling her. He's like, we gotta kill her. We have to kill her, because
the spirit within, obviously Almeida, is calling him out, because Almeida was excommunicated from the Vatican by him directly, and he was just calling. He's quite literally shouting at him, "You piece of shit, you bitch." You know, you know, you did this to me. You're denying of faith and all of this, and you're the ones telling us that we're the problem. You know, and he's quite literally causing his death and her death and people's doubters of faith.
I'm watching the alternate ending here.
So like it's really, really, it's a hard watch. And then he just gives up. He gives up on the exorcism, walks out of the room, and then Gabriel Byrne is like, you fucking, you little piece of shit, you get the fuck out of here, you piece of shit. And then you just never see him again. And then he goes in and the place is on fire.
He's like, okay.
He goes, are you Father, I think it's Pedro Alameda? And basically he goes like, what is it? He says something goes like, you need, for this to work, you need faith, where you have only doubt. And basically they have this whole argument back and forth, and then Alameda, through Frankie's words, basically says the entire truth.
Yeah.
Where I am not found in effigies of wood or stone, split of stone. I am in you and all around you.
I just watched the alternate ending there. She does die. But it's the same shot, but she's not up and walking around. Like, there is her up and walking around, but that's allegedly like her spirit, kind of. But then like the final shot of Frankie and Father Kiernan is him holding her dead.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty cool.
So it's a really, really good thing. And I love the fact that as soon as the spirit of Alameda leaves her body, it's the dove that just flies up and out of her. And I think that's that's a really, really good, powerful imagery. I like that. And that was done well, you know. But I just think, the cop-out at the end, which him going back to Brazil to the church that doesn't exist and finding the scrolls, I was like, oh, girl. It's a cop-out.
Well, because it's also a confirmation, though, no pun intended. It's a confirmation that this all was true.
Mm.
You know, not that we needed it, but I do like it to kind of wrap up. I don't know, I do kind of prefer the ending where she does die.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it makes it tragic, and I hate the idea that it's like, oh, people always die this way, but it's fine for you. Or for something. I don't know. I like the idea that she could be possibly like canonized, or she basically becomes a martyr.
Yes.
You know, again, very Catholic imagery.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just seems a little bit lazy and a little bit of it's too happy of an ending for some reason to just be like, oh, and you're fine. Just go about your normal life as if you weren't possessed or had stigmata or now know for sure that God is real, which implies the devil, which implies heaven, which implies hell. Oh, because it's Catholic. Although Catholics are fine. You can just kind of apologize for whatever and then you're fine. You can do whatever the fuck you like when you're a Catholic. You're just like, oh yeah, I did some fucked up shit. And they're like, you're grand. Just say a couple of Holy Marys, you're fine. Do you want to go for a drink? Very Catholic. No wonder Catholicism caught on so well in Ireland.
So
yeah, that was Stigmata.
I love it.
I love it.
I love that.
Love that.
Love that.
What a thought.
What a thought!
I do love anytime we do any kind of like Catholic shit on this because we're both little
Catholic fanatics.
Nerds. Yeah.
We're all icks at the end.
We should see. Just wait until October. I feel like something cool is in the pipeline.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So good for that. So a few like little developments. We have a sequel to Prey coming.
Oh, what? No, I thought it just was getting released on Blu-ray.
No, we're getting a sequel. No, that's the announcement about the Blu-ray thing.
Yeah, where the fuck did you get
It
the
just
announcement
reminded
for a
me.
sequel?
There was a sequel in there's a rumored sequel in the works for it.
There's always
which
a rumored
is-
sequel to
which is
something.
interesting. I am very much in the mood to see
There's
a
always
sequel
rumored
to
sequel
that.
to something.
Yeah, well, I don't care.
It's lies
I
and
want
vicious
it.
rumors. I also want it really badly. That's like probably my second favorite Predator movie.
And in case you didn't see our post, there's also a sequel for Talk to Me.
I know, I'm very excited.
Very, very excited. Like,
Although we did say, I was like, look, I don't need a sequel, but if they do make one, I'll go and see it.
yes, I want it.
It seemed like a nice closed, open and closed kind of book.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like there was a lot of room for a sequel, but I'll see it.
But yeah, no, I'm happy to. I mean, it's A24 again, so I'm happy to give it my money. You know, it's
And they're
fine.
independent creators as well.
Exactly.
Rock.
And the fact that they like, if I may say, it just speaks again to A24's like belief in like equality, representation, all of this. That the fact that straight up like with the SAG-AFTRA strike and things like that, that they're straight up just like, well, yeah, of course we're gonna give them what they fucking deserve. And like they're straight up just like, yeah, everyone else is like not fucking doing anything, and A24 is just like, yeah, we're cool, we're still churning out movies, we're good.
The thing that's funny to me is that people still consider A24 a small brand, and it's like,
No.
At this point, we cannot consider A24 a small indie company anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're huge.
Yeah.
They're like one of the big dogs now.
Yeah.
I would say like one of the major players in cinema at the moment. But yeah, it's still cool that we're getting like small. I say small, I mean like original content, original indie movies. They're focusing on a lot of creator-led horror. They're really kind of just being like, yeah, sure, do what you want.
Yeah.
Here's like $24 million.
So, another few things which are going to be quote unquote rated R. The Nun 2 will be rated R, which when something is rated R, there's a certain level of like The Exorcist, the Believer.
Yeah.
The Exorcist Believer. That's also another one that's been rated R. I'm also looking at it going like, okay, if you're going to rate it R, I have a certain expectation level for that. Do not disappoint me.
Because that's what gives me a little bit of faith, no pun intended, in the new Exorcist, is that it's rated R. Because if it had been like a PG-13 or like 15s, as we would say over here, it would have been like, oh. Which means you can't say certain things and you can't show certain things. At least if it's rated R. Yeah. At least if it's rated R. Or R. Or. I would say like, if I was
you will die a peasant's death.
But if I was doing the alphabet, I would say or, but I wouldn't say. But I would say rated R. I wouldn't say rated or.
Yeah,
that sounds weird. But yeah, I think having that backing behind it gives me a little bit of hope.
Yeah,
I actually am getting very excited for the movie just because I'm kind of in an Exorcist mood lately, which is weird because again I just finished reading.
You're half a marble statue Jesus face.
But I just finished reading the book, and then I watched the first and second movie, and then William Friedkin died like 2 days later. That's I'm not saying I was responsible. I don't mean to make his death about me, but that's just one of those weird things where I was like, damn, anytime he could have died, like right around when I'm having like a little like
an exorcist
kind of week or so, that's weird.
Well, it's been an interesting week, especially for the horror series genre, shall we say. So there's like 4 new developments. Obviously the announcement of the fall of the House of Usher.
Oh,
which
actually,
I'm
down for Mike
so
Flanagan.
fucking down for it. Mike Flanagan is there.
And what's her name again? Gina...
God, you have me there.
It's not Janine Garofalo. That's Heather from... Oh, what's her fucking name again?
She was in
the
Twilight thing. She's the Twilight. She's the mother, the vampire mother.
No, that's
Molto bene.
I bet she's not even Italian. No, it's Ciao Bella. No, it's it's the man from Spy Kids.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna piss me off. Hold on, Janine Gorillo or something like that. Hold on.
Anyway, so
I will find this out. You just watch.
You just watch, and then we have Chucky season 4 returning.
I am still yet to start the Chucky series, even though I've been told highly recommended.
It's highly recommended. I'm very excited.
But it's within continuation of the movies, which is
yes,
and
it's direct, kind of quote unquote sequelized series.
Gugino. I knew there was a good sound in there.
And then there's obviously American Horror Story. So
American Horror Stories, the Halloween special.
The Halloween special is a 4-episode Halloween special.
I'll watch it.
There's a certain episode titles that had me interested, which was Leprechaun, something about Tapeworm, which got me. And I was like,
Rosemary's Baby aspects for the new main season.
Which is entitled Delicate, based off of a book which is the same title, written by...
i.e. Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin.
Yes, it's a new sort of written by Danielle Valentine, which is, I'm guessing, a pseudonym title. But it's starring Emma Roberts, Khloe Kardashian, Kim Kardashian, and Cara Delevingne. So like
I can give her
the cam factor is going up,
but I do like Kim Kardashian. I will say that.
I seen her chops. Am I interested in seeing them? Maybe not.
See, I think you're like because Kim Kardashian is in it.
No, not necessarily. It's just like the last few seasons of American Horror Story and Stories have been shit.
I really like. Well, see,
they're just shit.
I really like Emma Roberts, and I like what she brings to American Horror Story. Because she's generally in my favorite seasons where it's like, just give the gays what they want, give us campy moments, give us genuinely terrifying moments.
But I think it's overturned by the more campy theatrical side of it, which for American Horror Story it's fine, but like again, remember, you're serving horror primarily.
But but it's horror made by a gay man, where I'm very, very okay with having kind of moments but
not millions of them, and that's the problem that I've had with the last few seasons. It's moved out
homophobic.
of. Shut the fuck up.
No, because
Because
a lot of the references that he's pulling from are older references for horror, which are camp. It's hands up against the face screaming. It's Fay Ray just writhing. It's all of this, you know. I think like if you're gonna go for
bitch.
You're not invited to the next Pride. I'm not even joking.
Fuck you.
No, I do think like camp and horror do go hand in hand, because you have to kind of suspend disbelief for things, you know, in horror. I'm excited. Now the posters that came out I thought were pretty cool. The spiders as like the pregnancy bumps. I thought that was kind of cool. And Kim Kardashian's look, she kind of looks unrecognizable.
There's sort of a thing with how do I say it?
It's because they gave her no brows.
Yeah, and they also gave her eyelashes that are fucking massive.
She looks really cool. I want to know where it's gonna go.
Yeah, so this story that I really kind of wanted to cover is something, again, it's harking back to the SAG-AFTRA strikes and things like that. So the Nun actress, if you don't know, Bonnie Aarons, has accused Warner Brothers of hiding her share of merchandise revenue. So this is becoming a very quick thing in Hollywood where actors are now calling out studios for revenue that they have secretly kept from actors, and that can be from the most basic things. And the first thing, namely, would be obviously their image.
Yeah,
now, you mentioned this
before.
Exactly. You mentioned this before where there can be a clause. I think someone...
it was Devon Sawa from the first Final Destination movie,
Yeah.
I think is what you're talking about. Now, I am in support of all these actors.
100%. We
also,
totally
they're not
support
fighting
you.
for themselves generally. They're fighting for the 98% of people who aren't represented and who aren't making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that did kind of annoy me, though, is like, okay, after a certain point, you kind of get what you get. Because if you don't read your contract fully... Like,
it's your fault.
Exactly,
it is your fault.
I understand the idea of renegotiating a contract if you're coming back for a sequel. You should be paid more because you're in higher demand. Like a Jenna Ortega or somebody like that who's bringing in a lot of money.
Yeah.
You should be able to renegotiate.
She's a big name at the time, so
or like with
she's
Netflix.
working.
Netflix are really fucked up. They don't release their numbers to anybody, which means that between seasons of a show, for something like Stranger Things or like an Orange is the New Black, which were huge, like internationally, because they're not releasing those numbers, the cast aren't able to go, oh, well, look, we're getting way more ratings than last season, so we should be able to renegotiate a deal, and they're not getting that. Now, with Devon Sawa, he, again, I could be totally wrong on this, but this is just what I've heard, where he kind of was a little bit salty, probably deservedly so, because I don't think he was much involved in any of the other movies after the first movie, where the footage from the first movie was used in the fifth movie, which is called The Final Destination, I believe.
Yeah.
Or just Final Destination 5. And he was a little bit like, well, I didn't get paid for that. And it's like, but you got paid for it the first time around.
Yeah.
And we were told that this could be used
again
in future.
Yeah.
Now, he said that he thought that he meant just for promotional images or like on talk shows or for trailers. It's like, but maybe you should have read into that a little further.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying this happens all the time. I'm just saying in this one instance, you probably should have maybe had somebody responsible for you or reading your contract a
Get
little
a fucking
further.
lawyer present.
Or have you seen Rachel Zegler, the new Snow White? Have you seen what she said the other day?
God, girl.
I
Don't
should
even
be
get me
paid.
started.
If I'm going to stand for 18 hours a day in an iconic
So
Snow White dress, I need
fucking
to be paid for
entitled.
every hour that it's streamed. And it's like, no, you don't. Because you're already getting millions and millions of dollars to stand and do that work. That's what those millions of dollars are for.
God, it speaks to your privilege.
No, it's small little instances like that when I'm like, shut the fuck up. Again, it's not about you. It's about all the people who aren't getting the millions and millions of dollars.
Exactly.
You know, like, again, I agree with all the SAG after because all of this is 99.9% of it is bigger actors fighting for the small guy.
Yeah.
But then there is always the aspect of like, poor rich girl. You know, where it's like, you're not poor. You're not out here
You're
struggling.
fine. You've got $1 million mansion just down the road. Fuck off back to it.
And then what's his name? Billy Porter. Being like, I had to sell my house. And it's like, yeah, because you're getting divorced. Not because of this like actor strike. I don't know. I just...
So the suit that Bonnie Aarons is claiming is her contract includes the stipulation that she would receive a fixed sum of money for her appearance in The Conjuring. That contract changed for The Nun, which was a fixed stipulation of the money that, first of all, is her base fee, but
She's
also...
the title character. It changes everything.
Yeah. Her base fee, but also a return on the amount. So the film was made for $22 million. It received $170 million in return for the box office. She was supposed to receive a salary from that. She didn't. It includes the stipulation that she would receive a share of Warner Brothers' gross receipts from merchandise exploiting Miss Aarons' likeness. As The Nun's face is entirely based on Aaron's physical features and requires no CGI or prosthetics, her importance to the franchise is undeniable, the suit claims.
That's just what she looks like.
She is an icon. Undeniably, in like the horror pantheon.
I'm from behind the scenes
she's
too.
there.
She's the bum from behind the dumpsters in Mulholland Drive. Like, she is iconic now at this point.
You know, according to the text of the agreement cited in the complaint, Aarons was promised a pro rata share of 5% of 50% of the gross receipts. She never received none of it.
That seems such a weird... You'll get 5% of 50% of the gross. Where it's like, what does that mean?
So basically, let's say they received $100 million, right?
Can I open one of those? It's very warm in here.
So let's say the film gets 100 million, right? She signed on for the first half of that, which is 50 million, and then 5% of 50 million. Hey Siri, what's 5% of 50 million?
5% times 15 million is 2,500,000.
So she was supposed to get that and she never got it.
But why wouldn't they just say like 2.5% of 100 million?
Anyway, that wasn't for the
seems like
return.
such a weird roundabout way to
that
confuse
wasn't
somebody.
return for the film. That was just merchandise.
Just merchandise?
Merchandising.
Like, separate from?
And she never got it. So she was fucked over. And the lawsuit claims the relevant merchandise includes toys, dolls, decorations, pins, jewellery, t-shirts, socks,
posters.
bedding, costumes, drinkware, and posters, all using Miss Aaron's likeness. Drinkware. Yeah, yeah. Whatever that means.
Are you drinking from the new Bonnie Aaron's drinkware? Yeah.
So, next week, we're doing something very special.
Well, I just want to say, though, I think for somebody like a Bonnie Aaron's, again, this is not like...
This is like 10 of them.
This does not mean to, like, insult her whatsoever, but she was a smaller actress up until now, where she wasn't, like... let's say she wasn't pushed to icon status, and now she is. The Nun, whether we like the movies or not, is one of the more iconic monsters that's come out in the last, like, 20, 30 years.
What are you talking about? La Llorona. The Curse of La Llorona was totally iconic.
Which was just the Nun, but in white.
Yeah.
I do think like these SAG-AFTRA strikes and shit like that are about actors like her, where the people are genuinely getting fucked over. And it's not like you didn't pay me for every hour that this show is on streaming or whatever. It's like a lot of... it's like, okay, but then negotiate that within your contract if you really want that. Like, did you ever see Reese Witherspoon for Legally Blonde 2, or her contract? She had written in that she wanted to get her pay, or she took a pay cut so she could keep all her wardrobe. That was written. That was written into her contract. So it's like that's somebody that I think is like very, very smart and very clever, who obviously read every word and every detail, or had a lawyer or two completely go through it, you know. But obviously she was a huge star at the time, and like still is. So she was able to have a little bit of
push
leeway.
and pull with it. Yeah.
Exactly. But somebody like a Bonnie Aaron's, who has only recently become iconic and a big star, it's very easy to fuck somebody like her over. You know, which is it's so fucked up, and that's kind of the entire point of what these strikes are about. Yeah. Oh, confirmation! Scream 7 will be filming at the end of this year. We're gonna go winter setting.
Oh.
I love the idea of seeing...
Christmas theme.
I do love the idea of seeing, like, a white Ghostface costume. An entirely white sheet.
Why you gotta
like,
be
to blend
white?
it. Because it's a ghost.
There's a real cool version of the Ghostface that's streaming around that's a red face with devil horns.
Oh, yeah, it's from, like, 2011.
It looks really cool. I like that
There
idea.
used to be a scarecrow version where it's like... what's that material? Burlap and stuff. And then, like a zombie version and shit like that, too. But yeah, so Radio Silence are still producing, which makes me a little less nervous. But Christopher Landon is directing, which does make me a little nervous because I don't want it to be too funny. Scream needs to be like 40% comedy, 60% straight horror. Yeah. But no. I don't know. I'm afraid, but I will watch it. I'll give it my money because it's Scream. But yeah, so next week.
Next week we're doing something that I have been thinking about for a while, and I really love the idea. Super, super minted conspiracy theory here, but we're going to talk about ancient aliens.
You're going to talk about ancient aliens, and I'm going to sit here and listen. I'm going to interject every once in a while.
Ancient aliens, in case you don't know, it's the quote-unquote, it's the ancient astronaut theory, which for all basic interpretations of it is we are birthed from experimentations of our ancestors from aliens
You've
from
seen
another
Prometheus.
planet. Prometheus, but without the
Charity to the
xenomorph.
Gods.
You know,
always.
Charity to the Gods, which I've read. Yeah.
Yes,
so,
she can read.
Bitch. So yeah.
B-I-C-T-H. Have you not seen that?
No.
Yes, she is a bitch. B-I-C-T-H.
So make sure to...
Vic.
Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram for some daily updated content.
Say your prayers.
Say your prayers. Don't steal rosary wreaths from dead priests who have stigmata.
That's literally the whole reason that movie happened.
Yeah. And, yeah. Bye.
Bye.